Hello, this is Daniel Collegia from Specific Marketing Solutions with an important lesson today on rapport. How do you create an instantaneous, unconscious connection with another individual? Now, I need to first make this distinction. Most people teach rapport as being finding an area of commonality with another person, finding an area of common ground or something in common. Now, while that can be helpful, what I'm talking to you about here is developing an unconscious hypnotic type of rapport. See, in most cases, it's often difficult for us to find something in common with another person, and we generally don't have the time to do that. What I'm going to be sharing with you today are some concepts around creating a far more powerful and effective kind of rapport. Okay. Now, what I'm going to be talking to you about firstly is the definition of rapport. One of the best definitions I've come across for rapport is that when you've got rapport with somebody, they tend to be more open to what you've got to say. They are less critical, they have fewer objections, and they are more likely to accept what you have to say. So I think rapport is a state of trust and responsiveness in another individual. So I've got this question for you. How would you like to be able to instantly create rapport with another individual where they feel like they've known you for a long time? Do you think that's going to enable you to create more win-win relationships in your day-to-day activities? Do you think that's going to enable you to find and attract more clients and ultimately, retain more clients? I think so. Okay, so let me just go into a bit more detail about how we effectively build rapport at an unconscious level. Now, I want to talk to you about a gentleman by the name of Ray L. Birdwhistle. Ray L. Birdwhistle studied communication for many, many, many years. And in 1970, he performed a study called Context and Kinesics. And what he discovered through that study is quite alarming. Only 7% of the meaning of the communication, when we're in a communication aspect with another individual, only 7% is in the actual words that we're using. Okay, so while most of us, probably feel that 100% of our communication is in the words, well, actually only 7% of the meaning is conveyed through the words. Now, 38% of the meaning of our communication is through the tonality. Okay, not so much what you're saying, but how you're saying it. Now, let me use this as an example. If I was to say to you, yeah, I'm really happy about that. Really happy about that. See, the words are conveying one thing, but the meaning is completely different, isn't it? So that's how, that explains to you just how powerful tonality is, how much more meaningful the tonality is to what you say rather than what you're saying. Now, a whopping 55% of the meaning of our communication is through the physiology, okay? How we hold our bodies, our body postures and so forth, 55%. So one of the most important things you need to start doing is becoming an observer. You need to start looking at how people hold themselves, how they behave in these three areas, and adopt your approach to be more similar to them. And the reason I say that is because people tend to like people who are more like them. Have you noticed how people who have similar interests congregate in groups together? Of course. Okay, so people tend to like people who are more like themselves. So this is about you becoming more like them. Now, I want you to understand something here. This is not a form of mimicry in any way, shape, or form. I believe this is a way in which we can honor that person, so much so that we're willing to become more like them in order to more effectively communicate with them for their benefit and for ours. Okay, so one of the first areas, the first three areas you need to look at are these. You need to look at, first of all, their physiology. Okay, how do they hold themselves? Are they sitting upright in their chair? Are they leaning to one side or the other? How they're holding their spine, their facial expressions and so forth, their gestures that they're using. These are things that you can be matching and mirroring, okay, as well when it comes to your time to speak, okay. Tonality. How do they say what they say? What type of range of voice do they use? They talk softly or loudly. These are other things that you can learn to match and mirror as well. And the words is another area you need to focus on. Okay, if they have a particular phrase that they use on a regular level, if they structure their sentences in a certain way, you can maybe tend to become more flexible in how you communicate with them as well. So I want to go into a bit more detail here on this concept of matching and mirroring. First of all, one key area to look at is their pitch of voice. Okay, do they talk in a very high tone of voice, or do they talk in a low tone of voice. And if you can maybe, change your vocal range within only a couple of octaves of your own normal range, you don't want to sound ridiculous here. Okay, you just want to change it slightly, but if you can do that, that's going to enable you to far more effectively create rapport at an unconscious level. Also look at their rate of speech. Okay, are they talking very fast? Are they getting their sentences out very quickly? Or do they tend to talk very slowly? Are they more reflective in what it is that they're saying? Okay, the worst thing you could ever possibly do is talk really fast to somebody who talks really slow. You'll notice that you just won't connect. Okay, there'll be something, that person will be thinking there's something not quite right about this person. I can't figure it out what it is, because a lot of this information is conveyed unconsciously, and a lot of these assumptions are made unconsciously. Also the volume. Okay, if a person talks in a really high volume, well, maybe you might raise your volume up a bit. If they talk low volume, you could lower your volume as well. And accents and slang. If they have a particular phrase that they use on a regular basis, maybe you could introduce that into your language as well, and be talking to them more in the way that they'd like to be spoken to. Now, I want you to understand something here. Physiology and tonality make up almost 80% of the whole, or more than 80% of that whole equation that we spoke about earlier. What I want you to understand is, though, physiology and tonality is outside of people's conscious awareness. I mean, think about this. When you're communicating with another person, you're mainly focusing on the words that you're using, aren't you? You're not really thinking about how you're holding your body, okay, what facial expression you're making, or the tone of voice that you're using. That all happens automatically from your subconscious, okay? So when you're matching and mirroring people on those levels, it goes by undetected, okay? That's the important thing to know here. So with that said, I hope this has been helpful for you. I wanted to share with you some very important strategies around building rapport with clients. I think this is one of the most valuable skills you could ever develop in terms of your communication. I mean, let's face it, everything evolves around communication. The more effectively you can communicate, create win-win relationships with people. I mean, having rapport is going to go a long way to making you far more effective and making a difference on a much bigger scale. So with that said, look, I wish you all the best, and until next time, bye for now.